Here's Brody Brazil.
You know, it kind of feels like with this whole Coyotes relocation situation that right now we are transitioning from the initial shock factor period of understanding this was always a possibility to, oh my goodness, this is actually happening and it's happening so fast. We're transitioning from that to now maybe more of the sentimental and emotional side as the Desert Dogs are bound to play their final game in Arizona. It's the Coyotes hosting the Oilers at Mullet Arena. And I say final game, definitely for this season, definitely for the near future, but that's part of the issue here. There is absolutely no promise that this franchise will ever be reinstated back into the National Hockey League, or it could take well beyond 5 years. I don't want to go too far into that topic right here, right now, but we'll eventually touch on that later in the video. It's obviously been a difficult journey for Coyotes fans. And this is just in recent years. I know, I understand it goes decades prior to this. But even in the last 12 months, May of 2023, the vote happened for that new arena project in Tempe. That was the plan of the team to try and build and move there and make it their forever home. But it just did not pass. And overwhelmingly, those three items on the ballot for that new site, it did not pass. So hopes up, hopes down after that. And then we really didn't hear much the rest of 2023, even into early 2024. Everybody was paying attention and speculating like we haven't heard much. This can't be good. But then there was kind of that surprise about a month ago that behind the scenes, the Coyotes had been working on starting the process of that land auction. The site of about 100 acres north of the Loop 101 was going to cost at least $68.5 million. The Meruelo family said they were all in on winning this bid, securing this site, building their $3-4 billion, whatever it took, all privately financed. No more referendum votes, nothing like that. They were going to get this done. And so the public probably felt, and the fans probably felt like there was some momentum there, something to grab onto, more of a promise that this would actually happen this time. And even as recent as like 10 days ago, within 2 weeks, the team put out plans and renderings and made promises that they're doubling down, tripling down on this site. No matter what anybody said, this is how they were going to move forward. They would take care of this. Wouldn't you know it? I mean, literally several days later, and I know what the mayor of Scottsdale said. I understand that was part of it, but already in the works was the NHL coming up with their schedule for next season, which included two different versions. One, if the team was going to stay in Arizona. But why would you even create a second version for Utah if that wasn't a significant possibility at that time? And it turns out the wheels were definitely already in motion for that to happen. So mixed messaging. I mean, again, Coyotes fans have always known this was a possibility to some certain and maybe even large degree. But the fact that it all unraveled and all developed so quickly, hard to process. And now you don't even really get the full experience of saying goodbye. You just kind of get this last game at the Mullet for now and maybe for a very long time. It's a difficult reality for Coyotes fans. And by the way, let me stop right here for a second. I don't want to hear it about market size. I don't want to hear it about a non-traditional hockey market or there's not Coyotes fans or not enough Coyotes fans. This is a fan base that's gone through it. So I am not here to evaluate them or pass any judgment on them. This is a loyal and dedicated fan base as far as I know, and it feels to me, every trip I've ever made to the Valley, all my understanding about the Phoenix area, it can definitely support a National Hockey League team. The Coyotes fans, they stuck through rumors and speculation for years and decades about relocation. I mean, if that's not enough to kind of get a fan base on the fence about whether they want to keep supporting this or not, I don't know what is. It was a very difficult existence in recent years for Coyotes fans. And then, to be finally promised that privately funded arena and complex, to finally think that it's all in the Meruelo family's hands, it's all in the team's hands, they'll get this done, there's not much standing in their way. And now to be under this quick preparation, a week or so to mentally wrap your head around this, and then to have this final game at Mullet Arena against the Edmonton Oilers. Let me also quickly just touch on this, the promise of coming back. I mentioned it before, but I want to go into more detail. It's going to take so many things happening right and falling into place for this to actually take place. Now, good on the NHL for realizing that the name Coyotes, the logo, the colors, all that stuff should stay in the desert. Now, I don't know about the team history, the stats, the win-loss records, playoff appearances. Maybe that continues on to Utah. We have yet to find that out as I make this video. But I at least like the idea of the Coyotes' name, image, and likeness staying in Arizona, because if, in fact, you get to restart the franchise, you get to bring them back out of dormancy, that's great. But so many things need to happen for that to actually come true. The Meruelo family needs to find land, secure it, build on it. They need to move forward with a project before they actually can even bring a team back. And I understand it's the promise of the NHL. What if all of a sudden it's 6 years and they're not in the right spot, or 3 years and they're not in the right spot to expand for whatever reason? The future is not promised in so many ways. I understand this would be part of the agreement, but it takes a lot of things in one specific family, the Meruelo family, to get it right here. There's a lot of weight on their shoulders to actually bring the NHL back to the Phoenix area. So I understand this is a promise, but I want fans to understand it still takes multiple things to go your way for this promise to even come through. And that's why this final game for the Coyotes, ticket prices, this is on the cheap side. And this is just Ticketmaster, I think, is where I was looking here. This is for 2 tickets. So we're talking easily over $1,000 for a pair of tickets. I haven't even included the service fees or anything like that. I mean, one of these is standing room only tickets. That's on the cheap side. How about on the expensive side? Can you imagine spending $25,000 plus for 2 tickets right there in section 110, row G? I mean, this is going to be an expensive and emotional night for Coyotes fans, one that they didn't really have a lot of time to prepare for. There's no surprise that those tickets are going for high dollar amounts. You just didn't even get to mentally wrap your head around this, and now all of a sudden it's here, it's quick, you got to say goodbye. Let me start here with my takeaways, and number one, I hope this is most obvious. Anytime a professional sports team moves, relocates, whatever we want to call this, and this one's weird, right? The team is kind of moving, but it's also being sold to the league first and then being sold on the other side to the Smith Group to capture that relocation fee. It's complicated, but this is a move. This is a relocation. Anytime that happens in professional sports, there is failure involved. No matter what the messaging is, no matter what Gary Bettman comes out and says, no matter what the Smith Group says, no matter what the Meruelo family says, anybody can spin this however they want. But the reality is, when a team has to move, there was a failure involved. And that failure is not on the fans. Let's equate this to a restaurant. A restaurant can close or change its menu or change its theme for a bunch of different reasons. The service wasn't good. The food wasn't good. The ambiance wasn't good. The location of the restaurant wasn't good. The hours weren't good. Whatever it is, you never look at the customers of a restaurant and say, well, it's their fault. It's the patron's fault that this restaurant didn't do well. No, you have to have a good product. You have to set up something that works for your hungry fans, right? If we're talking about restaurant goers or sports fans, you have to create an atmosphere that's successful. And it's not that hard. There's a formula of how to do this. There's no secrets really behind this, but you have to create something successful so that you can gather people coming to your restaurant, or in this case, fans coming to your games and really supporting your team. So there was failure. And go back to the restaurant analogy. Is it the location of where this team was playing? Was it Mullet Arena that's too small? Was it the players on the ice? How about never really spending on your team, never even approaching the salary cap? Heck, this is a team that had to spend money to get to the salary cap floor for so many years. Bad decisions, misdirections. Again, messaging is all part of it. So let's understand here that whatever you hear in the coming days about, this is good for the league, blah, 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 this is a failure in some way, shape, or form. It's also really odd for a franchise to go dormant for however many years this is going to be in the desert, but I certainly hope, and I'll make a separate video on this, I certainly hope the Arizona hockey community can stay active. And by that, I mean maybe fight for hosting a draft, or maybe have watch parties, or maybe have the Tucson Roadrunners play half their games in Tempe, just as kind of a fill-in and a placeholder. I think it's not like fans are going to totally, I don't know how they're going to feel instantly here, but over the long term, they're not going away. This is still a fan base and a market that will exist, that can support a team, but you just don't want it to go entirely dormant, just like the team's activity is going dormant. You got to find a way to keep this region active in hockey. And I also think looking back, the moment this team moved into Mullet Arena, the clock was at least ticking. The clock started because that was never a sustainable solution. It was kind of like starting to build a bridge to the other side, but the bridge wasn't fully built yet. You're on the bridge. You're starting to walk across this bridge, which was Mullet Arena. That's the beginning portion of the bridge, but the other side of it had yet to be complete. So you didn't know when and where this bridge was going to end or when, obviously, you were going to kind of walk off the end of the bridge. Really unfortunate that it ever came to this point. And last but certainly not least, in fact, this is the biggest thing I can say of all this, I do feel bad for the fans. In fact, I feel worst for the fans. But even more than that, team employees and people who make their living surrounding Coyotes hockey and will not be part of the transition or are now forced to make a transition into a different place that they weren't sure about moving and it wasn't their choice and they're just kind of along for the ride. I feel so bad for employees and fans of the Arizona Coyotes. Again, this is a failure in some way, shape, or form to some degree by the team. And now everybody's kind of going through the circumstances of that. I feel so bad for everybody that's going through these emotional days. And you know what? I think it's one of those situations where we realize it now, we realize what's happening, but we fully won't understand the scars and the ramifications until weeks and months and years down the road. So it is the last night in the desert for now. For how long, I suppose we'll find out, but I certainly hope that it's sooner than later. Hey, thumbs up on this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.